Hey folks, welcome back. For those of you preparing for the police recruitment process, one of the things you might be thinking about is how am I going to be able to deliver outstanding answers to the interview questions either at the day one, the search assessment centre, or at the senior or final interview, which most forces run on top of the assessment centre. So it struck me this morning that there's a way to do this by combining the traditional competency-based approach with the new fresh approach which North Yorkshire Police are starting to pioneer, which is called a strengths-based approach. Now, what's the difference between the two? Well, I can probably explain this best by going back in time to about 1987, because it struck me that there was an incident I dealt with there which was a perfect example of how I can explain the difference. So if you look in the books, what they'll tell you is a competency-based question is one where they'll ask you to describe a time when you might have solved a difficult problem, made a difficult decision, challenged someone's inappropriate behaviour, worked with others to solve a problem, had to meet a difficult deadline. These are all very traditional competency-based interviews, and what they're looking for is evidence of behaviour, the idea being, the theory being that evidence of past behaviour will be evidence of future behaviour. But the problem with that style of interview answer is it doesn't really tell you anything about what's going on inside your heart. So one of the things I advocate for people who are preparing for the final interview is that they be their real, authentic, emotional self. Now, it's a little bit different if you're preparing for the search assessment centre, because the interview process there, in the words of the College of Policing, is very robotic and doesn't get the best out of the candidates. But if you're going for the final interview or the senior interview, you certainly need to adopt an approach where you need to be your real, authentic, emotional self. And it's the emotional self that links in with the strengths-based approach. So in the strengths-based approach, they'll ask questions like, tell me about a really good day you've had, or tell me about something that you've been successful in. Tell me a story about a time when you demonstrated your strengths in the workplace. Or tell me about a time when you really succeeded at something and you were really proud of it. So they're questions which are trying to focus on the emotional side, and what they're looking for is for you to deliver that answer with some kind of passion. And there's no right or wrong way of delivering that answer, although for my clients yesterday at the I ran a seminar for those who are preparing for North Yorkshire Police final interview. We did look at a possible structure which I think will absolutely nail it on the day, but that's for another video. So that's what the books will tell you. They'll tell you that one is about behaviour and the other one is about your emotional state and trying to find your strengths-based interview. So let me demonstrate how they might work with the sort of answer that would be a behavioural one and the sort of answer that would be a strengths-based one. And then I'm going to tell you how to combine them both so that on the day, whether it's a behavioural answer or whether it's a strengths-based approach, you'll be able to deliver an answer that's going to absolutely nail it, particularly if it's a behavioural type question. So, back in 1987, I had just under 2 years operational service under my belt, and I can remember going to a domestic incident where a mother had had a neighbour call in a domestic violence incident. She had been hit, she had visible bruises on her face, and she also had 2 children, very young children. I think they must have been about 6 and 4 years old, something like that. And it was very traumatic for everyone. The father had gone, he'd gone to stay with some friends, and she was in absolute bits. She was in tears. It turned out, because I listened very carefully to her, I listened to everything she had to say, probed in a very gentle, caring way what had happened and how it led up to this and how she felt and how many times has this happened before. And it's very difficult dealing with those sort of incidents. But you know, she did tell me about everything that had happened, and I managed to persuade her that the best thing that she could do would be to leave and take the children with her, and would take action against her husband. And because one of the things she said was, I just want to leave him. You know, I wanted to leave him for years, but I've not found a way to do so. So I was her lifeline. I was the person that was going to be able to help her out of this life of misery. Now, a traditional behavioural type answer may talk about that as the initial situation, but then I'd go on to the sort of questions I asked her, how I managed to persuade her, how I worked with others, so how I went back to the police station, persuaded my sergeant and inspector that this was something that we needed to invest in financially, because there was no women's shelters back then that we had access to, so the only way to help her out of that situation was to put her in a hotel room with the kids. So there's a lot of persuasion going on. I had to work with others, so I had to talk about, I would have talked about how I'd work with the detectives to formulate an investigation plan, and also pre-brief the custody officer, or charge officer as we used to call them back then. A whole load of stuff which would look at problem solving, looking at different options, the rationale behind my decisions, the actions I took, what the result was, and what I learnt from this situation, what I'd do better in the future. All very unemotional and not really capturing anything at all about the emotions that meant that I can still remember this incident to this day. It's over 30 years ago. 33 years ago. 33 years ago, and I can still remember that incident like it was yesterday. And the reason I can remember it is because it touched me emotionally. So one, her story touched me. Two, the passion I had for wanting to do something here to protect her from harm, to make sure this never happened again, was something I can still remember. And it made me feel really proud that she made that decision. She made that decision to leave, and I was really pleased with myself. I went back home that night after that night shift. I didn't have anyone to tell. I was single back then, there's no one to tell, but I can still remember going back home thinking, do you know, this morning she's going to wake up in a hotel. Managed to find a really nice hotel, the kids are going to wake up, and it's going to be this fresh start, and I put everything in place to make sure that that fresh start's going to work. There's going to be follow-up during the day, there's going to be a detective that's going to go and see her, they're going to get a more in-depth statement as opposed to the holding statement that I took. The individual who had beaten her, a partner, a husband, was in custody. I felt really good, I felt really proud that I'd done something that had made a tangible difference. Now, that's not the end of the story, because that night when I went back on duty, I came on duty and told the sergeant, is it okay if I just skip parade and go straight out? And I went straight out to see her at the hotel. And this is the bit that really stuck in my heart. It's the thing I'll remember forever. I don't think I've shared this with anyone. I may have shared it with one or two friends over the years, but I didn't share it with my sergeant, I didn't share it with my inspector. But this is the bit that made me feel as though, yes, I've added significant value to someone's life here. And the moment came when I went to see how she was doing, and she told me how it had been a very difficult day. She broke down in tears. But then she showed me also, you know, and here's the children, they're asleep, they're calm, and they're not going to witness any violence towards me tonight. Wow. Can't get emotional just thinking about it now. But then the real emotional part came when she handed me a drawing that the children had done that day, and it showed her children, happy, smiling, and it showed a picture of me, the police officer, very badly drawn, but me, the police officer, smiling with my hands out like that. Wow. That for me was one of those moments in my career that I'll never ever forget. So that's the difference, folks. Gosh, wow, sorry. That's the difference. That's the difference between a strengths-based answer and a competency-based answer. So the competency one just talks about the behaviours. A strengths-based one, I would have gone straight into a little brief dialogue about the incident, but the pride I had. And that feeling, you know, when I wish I'd kept it. I wish I could just show it you now. I don't know where it got to, but that drawing that the kids put together, at that moment I just thought their lives are going to be significantly better as a result of my intervention. It was very moving, it was really, really touching, and it's 33 years ago and I can still remember it today. So one of the things you may have noticed was the difference in how I told the story. So in the behavioural approach, I told the story very much without much emotion, talking very much about the competency-based stuff, asking questions, persuading others, working with others, options, rationale, all that kind of stuff. The strengths-based approach is all about the emotions, all about what led to me feeling proud, and get glassy-eyed as well. You know, it's okay to get that glassy-eyed. At the interview I talked about where I managed to merge the two together. I talked about this moment where I saw some children having stories read to them in a place where just a year or two before we'd done battle with some organised crime syndicates. I say battle in inverted commas, but the tactical aid unit had to arrest several individuals who decided they wanted to pick a fight with them. And I remember seeing a big sign at the back that said, "Love the place it was," that the kids had done a big mural, and it just brought a tear to my eye. And it brought a tear to my eye in the interview. So this is what I've been thinking about, folks. What if we could merge the two? What if we could merge the two? So that in your behavioural answer, you use a SAL approach, or if you've not seen my videos before, use a STAR approach. But when we're talking about the result, we talk about the emotional impact this had on you and why you were proud. And if you were really proud about it, or it brought certain emotions to you, whilst you're talking about it, you're going to demonstrate those emotions. I did, didn't I? I couldn't help it. I mean, it was authentic as well. I didn't know I was going to start welling up a little bit talking about it when I started this video, but it was emotional. It was emotional for me telling you about it, and that's what's going to nail it for you, folks. So here's the new approach that I'm going to adopt in all of my coaching and all of my support. We're going to look to merge the behavioural competency-based answers with this highly emotional strengths-based approach. I'm going to merge the two so that when you deliver your answers at the interview, you're going to be delivering them in a way that is authentic. It's about the real you. It's a story that no one else has got that they can tell. The real, authentic, so it's stuff that happened to you. It's fixed in your memory. No one else has got this story. And your emotional self. You're going to reach out to the interviewer. You're going to get yourself over the table, is a phrase I once heard and I quite like. You're going to plug into their emotions. You're going to plug into exactly what they're looking for from you as a future police officer. Now, I know this works. I know this works because every one of my clients who has gone to the final interview and has shared something about their emotional journey and has shared something about what makes them feel proud, what makes them get up out of bed, what makes them happy, what makes them feel successful, what makes them tick in a way that's going to make them tick as a future police officer. These are the ones who get told by the interviewer things like, I shouldn't tell you this, you'll get official notification in a week or two, but you've got the job. I can remember one of my clients came back and said, I've got the job, I've got the job, I've got it, it's my dream job. She'd applied for the police service 5 times and she'd not got in. And this was her 6th application, and she just said, I remember her saying to me, if I don't get in now, I never will. And she did. And the inspector who interviewed her said, these were the exact words that he said apparently, was, that was just amazing. That was one of the most amazing interviews I've ever had. A little bit of dust in my eye. And I'm going to be following your career closely, and I really, really hope you'll be on my team because you've got a job. But you'll get the the official notification in a week or 2. Don't tell anyone I told you this. Anyway, she got on the phone and told me straight away. So that's what we're looking for, folks. How are you going to reach out to that person on an emotional level? Don't make your answer sound like, last night I went to takeaway and got myself a pizza, because that's how people deliver it sometimes. They're delivering answers where they hope they're going to get the best job in the world. I mean, it's the most honourable position in society, being a police officer, and they're delivering their answers and telling a story like they tell a story about how they went to the takeaway to get themselves a pizza last night. Get this emotion in there, folks, and you will be successful. So I hope you found this video of interest. I hope you found it really useful. One of the things I take great delight in is making this kind of positive impact, coming up with new ideas that are going to help you make a really positive impact on others and have a positive impact on your life, because you're going to be successful in the police recruitment process. But it doesn't come without hard work. You've got to practice, practice, practice. For all the forces out there who say just act naturally, just be yourself, even the strengths-based approach that North Yorkshire Police are using now, they're advocating to their candidates who are approaching this interview that you don't need to do anything to prepare. It's the worst advice ever, folks. So it might be emotional, it might be something that you're going to talk about that's got this emotional element to it, but practice it, folks, practice it. I hope you found it useful. If you'd like to find out a little bit more about my services, then below in the links you'll find links to my online courses, my seminars, my one-to-one coaching. And for those of you who are on Facebook, most people are, please do come and join my Facebook support group. It's got over 7,000 members in it now. 7,000 members. And all of them are there to help support each other through the police recruitment process. And if you're watching this in that group already, then great, fantastic. I'm hoping that you're getting the very best out of this group. So there's a link to that group below as well. I look forward to seeing you soon, and I wish you the very best of luck in your future career aims. Bye bye for now.